Hello everybody, good morning, welcome along to the Garibaldi Red podcast. I'm Max Hayes and with you hopefully for the next half an hour discussing a poor Forest night, a disappointing Forest night, an abysmal Forest night. There's not much else to say really, is there? That's one win in 11 for Forest, 4 losses in a row, and the biggest stat of all, 2 away wins in 27. I'm joined by Reds fan and legend, Lisa Fox. Thought I'd introduce you and spread some positivity this morning, Lisa. Good morning. How are you? And what did you make of the game last night?
Was poor from start to finish, and the less said about it, the better.
Yeah. Callum, you're also alongside us. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it was the worst performance since Everton on the weekend. Let's say that.
Yeah, definitely. We are live as well, so if anyone wants to get their comments on YouTube and Facebook, then be sure to do that on Facebook, Nottinghamshire Live, and on here, Garibaldi Red on the YouTube channel. Lisa, in terms of the actual performance, when I started watching it on the TV, I actually thought we're all right. We started all right. We started quite brightly. And then it was same old Forest where we conceded one, and then it was total capitulation from there, really, wasn't it?
That seems to have been the story of the last 4 games, though, that we've started quite brightly, and then it has just gone from bad to worse. And the players just need to step up, because last night was not acceptable on any level. I woke up this morning feeling really sad, and I'm still fuming because, they're getting paid a hell of a lot of money, and that they're not playing for the manager. And our fans, I've got to say, incredible. As dismal as the performance was, the fans, they weren't clapping the players at the end. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, did you feel like it was a farewell, Callum, when you saw at the end Cooper kind of go over and he called on the players to say sorry to the fans in a way and to apologise, and Cooper held his hands up as well. It's quite a famous picture. It will probably go down in Forest history. Do you think that maybe that was the end for him, perhaps? Do you think that was a goodbye, or do you think it was more of an apology from the players at full time?
I think that he knows maybe that the writing's on the wall. I think it was sort of an apology and a farewell at the same time, because he probably knows that might be the last time that he gets to kind of acknowledge the fans face to face. After that, I think he doesn't know where his future lies. He probably has a good idea. He's probably spoke to the owner recently and knows that he didn't have too many games to prove himself, and 1 win and 11 now, and that kind of result gets you the sack. 5-0 loss to a team that you get promoted with as well. We got promoted at the same time as them, and we spent a lot more money than them, and we didn't lay a glove on them at all. And I think that's where he's coming from. I think it's an apology, and also just the fact that he knows it might be the last time that he sees them, and pulling over the players to apologise as well. I think that was to let the fans know that he does lay some of the blame on last night on the players, which he should as well, because they didn't put anything in for him at all.
Yeah, there's media reports coming out this morning that, especially from TalkSport, saying that Cooper's been given 1 more game to save his job. Other reports came out last night saying he was close to getting the sack and that Marinakis was sounding out replacements. So it's ever evolving. It's always changing. And I mean, he has his press conference at 10:30 this morning. Steve Cooper is still expected to attend that. That's obviously ahead of the Wolves game on Saturday, which at the minute he'll be in charge for. Lisa, I suppose it's a really difficult question, given what the man has done for us in the past 2 years, and the best manager, certainly in my lifetime, Premier League return for the first time in 23 years. Do you think a change is needed? Do you think that's what would lift morale, what would get us out of this rot? Or do you think we give him time? We give him time to prove himself, and he previously got us out of rots. And Gemmo was saying on the last podcast that we did that there's no reason why Cooper can't get us out of this one.
I think Coops himself was really pragmatic last night in his post-match interview, where he said at the end of the day, the board, the owners will do what they think is best for the club. And if that is for us to have a change in manager, he will back that. And no man is bigger than the club. At the end of the day, no man is bigger than the club, and the results are poor. He's held his hands up and said, he admits that it's not going the way that we'd like it to. We've ridden the crest of a wave for the last 2 years with him. He took over at a point where we were staring League One in the face, and that we didn't at that point see any way out of it. Same this time last year, rock bottom of the Premier League. Again, didn't feel like we were going anywhere other than down. We have to be honest that the performances aren't anywhere near the level that we are expecting. You know, we've got World Cup winners that aren't anywhere near the squad. Our captain isn't anywhere near the squad. There does feel like there's a lot of unrest. And I think in the past, it's togetherness that has kept us together and kept us and got us through the bad patches. And last night's performance did not feel in any way, shape or form that the dressing room is behind our manager. And if that is the case, then there is a problem. Do I feel like somebody else could come in and make things better? I honestly don't know. I'm kind of in the middle in the fact that a change, sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. And depending who comes in, we could get back on that self-destruct where we have a different manager every 6 months. And we have been a club that has cried out for stability for so long. I'm just concerned that if we do make that change and make that jump, wherever we go next isn't necessarily going to make it any better for us as fans. Yes, it's a football club. Yes, we've invested a hell of a lot of money. The owners invested a hell of a lot of money. Would I be surprised to see him make a change? No. Olympiacos have made another change yet again. You know, Carvajal's gone in there. How long's he going to last? He was on the list as a Forest manager not that long ago, as a want for us to have. I don't know. I worry for the club's future, the team's future, but we do have players that are not performing and we need somebody that can get the best out of them.
I feel like you're speaking for a lot of the Forest fan base there. Anyone watching, if you want to leave a comment, whether you are saying that Cooper is in or out, your opinion, we'd love to hear from you, because I think the fans this season are, of course, a little bit more split. Expectations are slightly higher, which means people will be Cooper in and some people will be Cooper out. So if you want to leave your comments, and we'll put those on the screen shortly as well. Callum, when you look back to the game and you look back to actually the first goal that Forest conceded, a mistake from Sangare, not to single out players, but I think that obviously the team performance on a whole last night was so disappointing and so poor. But I think that just kind of summed up Forest, that it was silly mistakes costing us again, and then it leads to going and conceding another one, and like I mentioned earlier, just total capitulation, really.
Yeah, I don't mind singling players out today, to be honest, because they were. I mean, Sangare, for starters, he's put egg on my face because I really, really backed him and watched him for quite a long time. And I think they were chasing him for a long time as well, as the player that could kind of change everything for us in terms of the actual tactics that we could actually change to a back four and have him in front of that to defend the back four, basically to protect them. And he's not done it. He's sloppy on the ball. He loses the ball in key areas. He doesn't win it back. He's so slow trying to get back to defend, and that first goal yesterday was exactly that. He lost the ball in the midfield, and then he's barely walking back to defend. And even for one of, I think it might have been the second goal, it might have been when Murillo felt like he had to step out of defence to cover, because Sangare wasn't doing anything, and that kind of left that hole there for them to play through. And yeah, they just don't seem to. It's like Lisa said, I don't really know who is going to get a tune out of them at the moment, because we've seen Steve Cooper pull results out with teams like, when you look at last season, some of the players we took to some of the stadiums, and even the team that we got a point against City at home, and he's performed miracles with players. He took a team that was bottom of the Championship to the Premier League. Chris Hughton couldn't get anything out of them, and that's not me defending Cooper. I just worry about who is going to get something out of the players. It feels like a little bit like we were so excited about the recruitment in the summer, and when you actually look at the players that we got in now, one by one, it's starting to look a bit kind of like Ola Aina was amazing at one point. Yesterday, he was at fault for 2 or 3 of the goals. Sangare, like I said, the record signing. I've been hoping that he'd get better and better, but he just seems to be getting worse and worse. Hudson-Odoi, he's injury prone. It feels like he's kind of not really up to fitness at all yet. It doesn't feel like we've got anything up front other than Alanga maybe. Origi looked okay for the first 20 minutes, but again, I don't think he really touched the ball, so I don't know if we can really blame the strikers. So it's a bit of a worry, the players at the moment altogether, I think.
Yeah, it's an incredibly bleak time, really. And the comments aren't too positive either that we're getting in. Martin says, all the Cooper in fans keep saying, give him time. 1 in 11 wins when it's going to be better. Every game, it is getting worse. And 5-0 yesterday surely has to be the end of Cooper. Dan says, blame the players and blame the person who is making the signings. Players can't do simple things. Pass, move, work. Does it really take a manager to get the players to do those things? It is basic stuff. How many academy players are coming through the ranks right now? None. That's an interesting point, Lisa, and it's often talked about in football clubs. And of course, Cooper is given the role of head coach. And that means often that there is somebody else making the signings, somebody else making the recruitments. Ross Wilson is Marinakis' man day to day. He's the chief operating football officer, I think is his specific role. How much do you think this slides down to a lot of the signings? Because I've just seen a comment there as well from somebody that talks about the high-profile signings not performing at the minute, the likes of Sangari, as Callum mentioned there, the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White. How much is this down to the signings rather than almost tactically on the pitch? Because any manager perhaps would struggle to work with this current set of players at the minute.
But they shouldn't. I mean, the calibre of the players that we have signed should be doing better. You know, we have gone out there. We have chased Sangare all summer, and you know, he can't even string 2 passes together at the minute. He's cost us a lot of money. He's on a lot of money every week. And I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, I'll accept losing. I will accept losing 4, 5, 6-0 every day of the week if I can see that the players have given it their all and left it on the pitch. And there was none of that last night. And it said it all for me that at the end of the game, Coops is asking the players to come over and applaud the fans. And some of them are standing laughing and joking in that centre circle. And that they are the players that we've been lauding as the fact that, you know, they're the ones that are going to get us through this mess. Recruitment in the past hasn't necessarily always worked. We've seen it over the last 20 years that you sign somebody that you're going to be really excited about, and it just doesn't work. It's a car crash. We need to learn from those mistakes, but unfortunately it's the Premiership, and now the Premier League is the draw. It's not Steve Cooper, it's not Nottingham Forest, it's the fact that they're playing in the biggest league in the world, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get, whoever is in charge, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get the best out of those players.
Yeah, David says, lack of ability you can understand. Every professional football club should be able to run and close down opponents. Just look at Luton. I suppose that's an interesting point, isn't it, Callum? And the worry, I suppose, for Forest, and I've seen a lot of comments on social media, is that we've gone from having a side last season that almost a lot of the players in there knew what it meant for the football club to get promotion, knew what it meant to the city, knew what it meant to the fans and to Cooper and the ownership. This year, we've got another completely fresh squad. It's completely new faces that potentially don't know what it means to the football club. Is that a worry? Do you think that's potentially why they're not showing that fight? As Lisa mentioned there, some of them laughing and joking in the centre circle at full time yesterday, and Cooper actually having to call them over. And also, is it a worry now that teams like Luton are showing a lot more fight and desire and picking up points? Do you think Forest are going to be in a relegation battle?
Yeah, I mean, like the Luton thing, that was, I read that comment as soon as it came through. It was like us last season. We wanted to fight for every ball. The fans were up for it. And I don't blame the fans for not being up for it most of the time now, because the players aren't. There has to be a correlation there. We have to be putting everything in on the pitch for the fans to actually want it. When you start in the game and the fans are up for it, and then you can see 10 minutes in or 20 minutes in or however long it takes with just playing. I mean, even the Everton game was just 45 minutes. The first half was just embarrassing, and the players aren't putting anything in. So how are the fans expected to? And that's what it's like now at Luton. It was like that at the City Ground last season. They were chasing every ball against Arsenal. They were putting Arsenal to the sword, and the fans were going mental, even when they lost in the end. And it just seems to be like we had that. This might be why there's a second season syndrome, but we had that. And most of those players are still here. I know that, like, obviously, Joe Worrell and Yatesy, they're local boys, but Mangala knew what it meant last season, and Morgan Gibbs-White knew what it meant last season. It seems like Gibbs-White still does, but some of the players coming in, Sangare's probably been told, look, come to us, we're going to chase Europe. That's what the owner's ambition is. We're going to chase top half Europe. You'll be the man in the middle. Kind of like maybe last season, Palhinha came to Fulham, probably got promised this kind of, like, if you perform, this is where you'll get to. And then he's getting offers from Bayern Munich. And that's probably what Sangare's come into, realised that it's not as easy as that, not as rosy as that. He's not really putting the effort in. a lot of the players aren't really putting the effort in, and it seems like even some of the games at the start of the season, that team now is a contrast. We know that there's players there. Like we came back against Arsenal as well, and we played well away from home. And we did the same against Man United. But as soon as we scored 2, we obviously conceded 3 and collapsed. But we know that there's a team there that can score goals. And it feels almost like we've tried to improve the away form so much after last season that even like now we're scoring goals. We couldn't score away from home last season. It seems like now we're kind of performing in a certain way there. Not enough to actually get a point or to win, but playing somewhat better at the start of the season. And then the home form's gone, and now it's just kind of neither. No home form, no away form, and it just seems like there's a collective kind of, they've just all given up. And like you said, Luton, I don't think they're a good team. I don't think they've got good players, but they've got a system. They know which players work in that system. You're looking at some of the players in that team and you're thinking, how are they even in the Premier League? I know some might sound disrespectful, but that's just how it is, looking at some of the players. But they have a system, they have the fans behind them, they're playing and they're fighting for everything. And we're not, we're just kind of the opposite at the moment, and we're just kind of sleepwalking into a relegation battle. So it does feel like we're getting there if this continues, to answer the question.
Yeah, Callum, and you mentioned there about the expectations and Sangare maybe coming in and Marinakis and the ownership telling him that we'll be aiming for a top 10 finish and hopefully a European side in the next few years. Lisa, do you think the expectations are too high this season from the owners and even possibly the fans?
I think the expectation from the fans is purely is for progression. I mean, that's my personal opinion, and I know that progression, in some ways, has just meant not getting battered 5-0 away, which Arsenal first game of the season, it was progression because we didn't get battered. We gave a performance, but I think the problem for us has been as soon as Taiwo got injured, it was game over, and we have got no plan B. There is no plan B because we're not scoring goals, we're not creating, and our most creative player is being played out of position. And those that we have recruited instead of Brennan, for example, Sangare is not the like for like replacement. Yes, we sold Brennan and got in Sangare last day of the transfer window, and he was our big money signing as one went out the door. But we didn't actually replace Brennan with anybody that has got the pace and the assists and minutes and the power that can actually do what we want. And he was one of those players that Cooper trusted. Yes, Ilanga has started quite well. He's trying pretty hard, but I don't think he's got the backing. I don't think he's got the player behind him that he's not Renan Loddy, is it? And we have, if you're talking about Sangare, it took Loddy a very long time last year to actually hit the ground running and settle into the way, the culture of how we work and how England works, I guess. And so that for Sangare, I'm kind of, give him some time, but we are on a free for all, and it just feels like things are just not going well. And on Saturday, the guy that sits behind me, it was all Sangare's doing this wrong, Sangare's doing that wrong. But as soon as Sangare went off, nothing really changed. And it is really hard. You can't just pick out the one. I think, we've spoken before about the AFCON being a problem in January. I don't think it is. I don't think we're going to miss any of those players other than Mangala.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point, and I'd seen it all on Twitter as well last night, Lisa. Adam says you can see the body language and behaviour of the players. It is not respectful for Cooper. He has clearly lost the dressing room. Mark says, feel so sorry for Cooper. Clearly the players are letting him down. I suppose the hard question to ask, and I do hate to ask it given what the guys achieved for the football club. Callum, are you Cooper in? Are you Cooper out? Do you think maybe now the time is to make a change? Is that what you think might get us out of this rot?
It's difficult, isn't it? Yeah, I think I was Cooper in. I was Cooper in massively last season, and this season as well. I took one foot out against Everton. I feel like the second foot almost came out last night. It was, it's the away form, isn't it? You can't win 2 games over 2 seasons away from home and not win one game in 11 games. It's unfortunate because of everything that he's done. I feel like maybe he has lost the players. The the tactics aren't perfect. Sometimes there's obvious mistakes. Like I felt yesterday personally, like leaving Gibbs White out was a mistake. I feel like leaving him on the right wing throughout the whole season has been a mistake. Bringing on Joe Worrell against Luton rather than Niakate, I felt like that was a mistake. And as much as good as he's done for us, and as good as we know he is as manager, I feel like he's still learning. I feel like in 5-10 years he might be at like a special level. I feel like he will get up there. But at the moment, while we're learning and while he's learning and while the players aren't performing for him, I feel like it might be the squad might just need a kick up the backside to just get in form and play for someone. Maybe the tactics be a bit better. Maybe be someone who can perform away from home. I don't know. It doesn't feel nice to say Cooper out. It doesn't feel right to say Cooper out. I don't want to sit on the fence either, but I think after last night losing 5-0 to Fulham, I think I'm not Cooper out, but I think it's going to happen, and I can see why it's going to happen.
Do you agree, Lisa? Do you think that maybe it is time for a change? And you look at clubs like Villa in the past that have progressed slowly through the years, and look where they are now, and they had to change their manager twice after Dean Smith.
Like I said at the beginning, it is a be careful what you wish for. And we have historically changed coaches, managers so many times, and it hasn't worked. But we can't be sentimental. And whilst I am with Callum on that, I'm not Cooper out. I'm not really Cooper in. I am in that what will be, will be. It's going to be sad. Whatever happens, it's going to be sad because he has done so much for this club over the last 2 years. And it's really emotional, He gets us. That's the problem, that he gets us, and the next man in, it could just be a payday, and we go on that spiral back to the Championship. And I don't really want that either. so can we just find a happy medium?
Yeah, I agree. But Callum, just like Lisa mentioned there, it is an emotional time. I'm sure for you, the probably best day of your Forest supporting life was Wembley. The same for me. No manager ever gave us that before. For me, he's the best manager in my lifetime. He'll always be remembered as a legend. And that's why it potentially is hard. I've just seen a comment there saying, well, that's Callum kind of you saying that you can't, you're too afraid to say Cooper out. But then in the same way, it's very difficult to actually say those words because of what he's done for the football club.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's a lot of people have had different kind of connections with the club over the years, and he has collectively brought us all together to feel the same way. I've never felt anything like it supporting the club. Last night, I had to delete my tweet because I'd worded it incorrectly, but I said that we won't feel that day at Wembley again. Like even if we go down and it takes 23 years to go back up, like it's that first time is a special feeling. If we go down this year and then go back up, it's just like a kind of Norwich thing, isn't it? And it's like, great, we're back up there now. This is where we're supposed to be. That first time going up, that first day at Wembley, and then even the day that we stayed up against Arsenal, that was just as special as the day at Wembley for me. If we stay up this season, will it feel that special? Probably not, because everyone will think that we should have stayed up anyway. If we go down, it will feel horrendous. Nothing will ever compare to that. And he gave us those 2 days. And last season was so like the two seasons, the season we went up and the season we stayed up were so different for two different reasons. Because the first season, he brought us from nothing to something. And the second season, we had to fight to actually stay. We were losing games consistently after winning games consistently the season before. And we've been through two kind of different emotions with him. And you just can't change that after what we've witnessed. When I was growing up, we were in League One. I don't remember it too well, but we were in League One, and then we were in the Championship for so many years that every season I would just kind of think, is this the season? Have we got the players? Have we got the right manager? Have we got the right blend to get out of this league? It seems impossible with the parachute payments. I remember dreaming that Albert Adoma would score the winner for us in the playoff final, and it's funny to think about now, but he gave us something. Like if we'd have stuck with Chris Hughton at the time, we'd be in the Championship right now. If we'd have swapped for Rafa Benitez last season, we'd be in the Championship right now. So it's not that easy. And it's like Lisa says, I love our owner and I love his ambition and I love how much money he's put into the club. But in terms of picking managers, he's not always perfect. I'm sure Dane Murphy had a big hand in bringing Steve Cooper in because he didn't bring in the best managers before, like Carlos Carvajal at Olympiacos. Now, we could have brought in Chris Wilder instead of Steve Cooper at the time, and I think we'd still be in the Championship now. So it's not that easy to just go, yeah, let's just turn our back on him. But when you're being realistic, it's hard not to say that it might be the best thing right now. So it's not a simple yes or no sort of thing, I don't think.
Yeah, NFFC 1865 said he's definitely not Premier League standard. Cooper has to go. He's tactically inept and championship at best. Swansea fan worried us about the football that we are seeing. Martin says, Lisa, we will not go down under a new manager. We changed managers in the championship, so any new manager had the pressure of getting us up. We are up, so a new manager's pressure is to keep us up in our position now as we can get a quality manager. And that is the problem, isn't it? With football, like you said, Lisa, be careful what you wish for, because if a new manager came in and didn't hit the ground running, and my concern mainly would be the relationship that they had between the fans. The fans have had an incredible relationship with Cooper. They'll sing his name when we're 5-0 down. They've backed him all the way. He'll always be thanking the fans after travelling 300 odd miles across the country to watch us home and away. But this is the problem, is if we get somebody else in and they don't hit the ground running and a few poor results, then it really could be a downward spiral from there.
And that's where it's different. I mean, I Martin's comment, I completely agree with him. You know, at the end of the day, it's a results business. And it is a business. For our owner, it's a business. And what he is looking for is somebody doing the job to the best of their ability. And we need somebody that is going to keep us in the Premiership. I don't think that we're going to get relegated. There are 100% 3 worse teams than us. But at the moment, on the run that we're on, 1 win in 11, 2 wins away from home in the past season and a half, it's not acceptable. And if I was in the position that Coops is in my job, I would be under a lot of pressure. So I get that completely. But I'm assuming Martin is Cooper out. But who would you bring in? You know, I mean, at the end of the day, we are fans, so we want to go and enjoy our football. Cooper has brought us together like no other manager I can remember other than Cloughy and Frank Clark, which shows my age in comparison to you guys. But at those times, and I think that's where it hurts the most, because under Cloughy, under Frank, we were enjoying the highs constantly. We were up there within the top 6 teams in the country at that point. And then that relegation under Clough hurt more than anything. We're now at the point where I don't think we'll get relegated, but do we need to change the manager to stay in the league? It's not my decision.
Wayne says that Neil Warnock's the man. I don't even want to really reply to that comment, to be honest. In terms of Callum, I've just seen a comment there about Chris Wood, and we saw Divock Origi play last night, and okay, he might have offered a little bit more, and physicality-wise can be more of a presence up there at the top. But Forest are really lacking that attacking outlet. And Chris Wood and Divock Origi, these are names. These are Premier League strikers. And as Lisa mentioned earlier, this squad on paper should be doing better. So, and I know it's a really difficult question to answer, but why, I suppose, are players like Chris Wood and Divock Origi not performing and doing what strikers should do, which is ultimately score goals?
I don't think we're a side that plays to Chris Wood's strength. I think we're a side that plays to Taiwo Awoniyi's strengths, and we need that kind of player that's involved, fast, can get in behind, can put the ball in the back of the net. Every time the ball comes to Chris Wood, it kind of slows everything down. It takes him a long time to kind of adjust his body to figure out where he's going, to pick the pass. You kind of just want to put the ball on his head, don't you? We've done it a few times. Sergio Aurier found him twice against Sheffield United, but that's not our entire game. And it's kind of like, I feel like he was bought as that kind of sub to, if we need a goal, we can just throw him up there and launch the ball in the box. Origi was always a super sub for Liverpool. He's never really started and really done anything. He hasn't done anything at AC Milan. I feel like, again, he might have just been brought in for a bit of depth, just in case anything does happen. And we've kind of left ourselves now with Awoniyi injured without really a starting striker, a striker that plays to our ability. And it's difficult with the circumstances, with the amount of players we've had to bring in at separate times. And when we bought Chris Wood in, it was in January, so strikers weren't really. It's hard to buy strikers in January, especially for an amount. That's why we paid so much for him. But they don't really suit our style of play, and it's really frustrating. And we're lacking a little bit for depth on the wings as well. If Hudson-Odoi's out, then we've got to play Gibbs-White on the wing. I did think when we kind of made all those signings and got rid of certain players and everything like that, that we'd left ourselves a little bit short up front. But as a fan, you just kind of hope that no one gets injured and everything's going to be okay. I got Football Manager as soon as it came out, and Hudson-Odoi and Alanga were injured in my first game, and I was like, right, I haven't got anyone.
It's very realistic.
Yeah, not realistic at all. But that was when I was like, oh no, we actually haven't got anyone to fill those spaces. And you see it now with a 1 year out. And it's just not the two kind of strikers that we need to play with. Origi might be a little bit more, but I don't think he's up to the pace, and he's always been used as a super sub. Something needs fixing with that, and I think that's where a lot of the fans' frustration comes from as well. I feel like it's just a little bit like against Everton, we had 3 defensive midfielders without really any creativity, and then Chris Wood up there, and then Gibbs White out of position. And it's like, how do you get the ball to Chris Wood? How do you play to Chris Wood's advantages when there's not really any creativity in there? So it just seems a little bit lopsided everywhere around the squad, and it needs fixing in January. I do think we need a striker big time, if not 2, maybe a striker and a winger.
Yeah, that leads us quite nicely into a comment from Steve. He says, sorry if this has already been asked, but what can we do in the transfer window to shake things up and create some competition for key places? That is a big point, isn't it, Lisa? Whatever manager is here in January, the big question is how on earth do you fix what is currently broken? How on earth do you get these players in? Callum mentioned there how difficult it is to sign strikers and even to sign players in the January transfer window. You always end up paying a lot more. In terms of positions and in terms of players that we need through the door, is this a case where we're going to see, Lisa, do you think 10 signings again come in and a completely new squad? And I suppose this depends on the managerial situation. Or do you think a bit of patience, a bit of stability, and potentially just 1 or 2 kind of key additions through the door, one of those being a striker?
Well, we've seen over the last 2 January transfer windows that Forest have been quite astute, and the January transfer window in 22 was the difference between us staying in the Championship and getting promoted for me. Last January, it wasn't quite as busy. I think this January coming, we'll probably see more going out than we will coming in. And it will also depend on whether if rumours are to be believed, there could be a possible transfer embargo incoming. So hands might be tied anyway. So, I mean, but the problem for me, the prices are always inflated in January. And if clubs know that we are desperate for a striker, it's going to be inflated even more. And it's whether the owner will then be prepared to put any more money in to a club that at the moment really isn't working. But managerial position could dictate that if you've got a new manager in, generally it's likely to be that he's going to want his own players coming in too. So, I expect to see a couple of new faces, and I agree, a winger and a striker is a must. At the moment, we have far too many square pegs in round holes, as it's been said in the past, and it's just not working. 3 defensive midfielders doesn't work. We haven't got a lot of creativity at the moment, and you can't keep scapegoating Wood and Origi because we're not getting the ball up there.
Yeah. Lisa, in terms of the January transfer window, in terms of a new manager coming in, it's an incredible job for a manager to try and turn around a current team. But for then, if you're getting signings, and I mean, I suppose whether Cooper would be given actually until January to see where we are. But then I've just seen a comment there and saying, how much longer can this go on? I think the most concerning point for me is not only this rot, but 2 away wins in 27. If you were a football club owner and you were investing the money, surely you'd be thinking of making a change ahead of a transfer window.
100%. That every week, I'm sure there is the way that the performances have gone in the last 2 months since the October transfer window. Really, I think the question must be being asked as to, do we have the best man for the job in place at the moment, and who will come in and do a better job with the players that we've got? Coops has obviously done enough so far to convince the powers that be that he is still the man for the job. But with it, December, games are thick and fast, and that might be the reason that he is still where he is. But something has got to change, and whether that is personnel, whether that is the players that he is using, whether he has to sort of find a plan B because there isn't one. Who knows? It's extremely difficult position to be in. I wouldn't want to be in Steve Cooper's shoes, and I wouldn't really want to be in Marinakis' shoes, because he has to get somebody that is going to fit with us and get results pretty quickly.
Yeah. Contrary to reports this morning about Cooper maybe going or being given one more game, he is doing a press conference as we speak. That will obviously be ahead of the Wolves game. So it looks like at the current moment, Callum, he'll be in charge for the Wolves game. I'm going to ask you the very simple question. What needs to change for the Wolves game?
For the Wolves game, I don't know. I think something I wanted to see yesterday was the wingers and Gibbs White in the 10 and just go for it with Sangare and Mangala in midfield. But now I don't really trust Sangare to cover if we have a 2 in midfield. I think it might actually be worth changing to a back 3 potentially, maybe. I think then it gives Murillo the license to come out of defence. And because to be honest with you, Murillo's probably been one of our best attackers, or maybe our best kind of creative player to come out of defence and actually make something happen. So it might be worth changing to a back 3, putting Murillo in there, letting him kind of have that license to leave the back 3, hang around in midfield a little bit, and then have, I don't know, I think you probably have Aina at right wing back, and I think Toffolo maybe if he could, because we know that he's one of the best crossers in the team. I don't know if he's particularly a wing back. The whole lineup off the top of my head, I couldn't really think, but I think maybe turn into a back 5 would probably be the one thing I could think of, especially away from home. Is what he did last season against Brighton to change things and shore the defence up. I would definitely not drop Gibbs White again. I would try and have as much, maybe even trying to drop a striker and put in Gibbs White in the false 9. I don't know. He hasn't really tried. He's tried everything other than kind of the most attacking thing he could do. But after last night, maybe it's not the best idea. So maybe it might be worth reverting to 3 at the back.
Yeah. Lisa, in terms of the Wolves game, and people keep the comments coming, tell us what your predictions are for Forest Wolves, and we'll get those on screen. How can you see the Wolves game going? Can you try and shed some positivity for us on this dark, rainy morning? I'm just looking out my window here in Manchester, and it's just raining, and I just feel like it just adds to the current mood.
It always rains in Manchester, Mike.
It does. Yeah, exactly. It's nothing new.
I think we have set up far too defensively over the last few games, and it hasn't worked. And so we do need to do something different. I would like to see Gibbs White back in there. I mean, I was, I think, as shocked as anybody to see him dropped yesterday, because if as you know, he was the man Cooper wanted all last summer, and for me, you don't drop someone like him on a game where your job could depend on it. But no man is bigger than the club. But I would get Morgan Gibbs White back in there. I agree with Callum again. Play that false 9. We have to go on the attack, and he can only go with the personnel that he's got available, which makes it a lot harder. But we need to see some passion and desire from those players. You know, last season I felt that our season turned at Liverpool away. And the week before, I thought, you know, we're down here. This really isn't good. The game against Liverpool, we saw some fight, we saw some desire, we saw some passion from the players. We haven't had that for the last 2 or 3 games. It really is. It's really starting to make me angry that, you know, we're paying our money. Coops' job's on the line, and he hasn't got players that are playing for him. You know, at the end of the day, they're on a lot of money and they are paid to do a job, and they're not doing it. I want to see that on Saturday, whoever that first 11 is out there. And on another note from that, I also think Liverpool away this season was the turning point of what's kind of gone wrong. And we've talked a lot about players today. The one player that we haven't talked about, the one position that we haven't talked about at all, is the goalkeeper.
So, Lisa, the question then being, and I've just seen a comment that says Vlachodimos is much worse than Turner. Do you think since changing the keeper, it's gone wrong? That there is only so much you can blame, though, surely on, you know, that's 2 keepers for Forest. And all right, the performances have almost got worse since the keeper's come in. But can you really blame the keeper, Lisa?
I always feel that if you've got a defensive line that has got confidence in their keeper, they play better.
And do you think that, and Callum, do you think that the defensive line has faith in Vlachodimos?
I don't know. I haven't seen him make a save yet. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure how good he is. I don't. But Turner's just. I've seen him make mistakes and barely made a save as well. I don't know. I think we've. That's a position that we've messed up on as soon as we let Samba go. I think I mean, I think probably I thought Navas wasn't as good as we thought he was going to be, but I think he was better than the two that we've got at the moment. Obviously, the Dean Henderson thing kind of was all over the place. He's injured now, so that was kind of the right call not to bring him back. But no, I don't trust either of the goalkeepers. I don't trust either of the right backs at the moment. I don't trust many of the midfielders. I don't trust the strikers. It's really changed really quickly, because at the start of the season I was going, wow, Ola Aina, one of the best free signings that we've had. It was the same as Aurier last season. Aurier's come back and he's showing what he was like at Spurs. It's just like you look around all these positions now, and the funniest thing is that the one player that I trust more than anyone, other than Murillo, is probably Harry Toffolo, and he couldn't get into the side last season. I don't really look at many of the positions and think maybe Steve Cooper doesn't know his best side now. Maybe that's why he dropped Aurier for Aina quite quickly, and maybe that's why he brought Aurier in quite quickly last week against Everton. Maybe that's why he doesn't trust Chris Wood now, and he's brought Origi, and it doesn't seem like he knows his best 11. Maybe he doesn't have a best 11. With so many new players, you see so many things, so many flashes of brilliance in certain areas, and now we're kind of seeing where they're not so good. So that's why it's as much as it's easy to blame the manager, and with we can, because of the away form over the last 2 seasons and everything that we kind of know why he's under pressure. But the players themselves are just not covering themselves in glory. And yeah, the goalkeepers, I don't trust either of them. I've seen Turner come out almost all the way out of his box against Liverpool when we were trying to chase a goal and just leave the goal open wide to Mo Salah. So what do you do there, Wayne Hennessy? No. So yeah, I don't know with any of them.
Yeah, Paul says Wolves 4-0 Forest, Gripper 2-0 Forest. Robert says 1-0 Wolves. Nice and positive to end probably there. I think that does us nicely. Lisa, thanks for your time this morning.
You're welcome. Let's hope that we come away on being a little bit more positive.
Well, my positive is that I've got to stand next to you in the away end for 90 minutes against Wolves, so that will be fun. Callum, thank you.
Thank you very much. I do hope that it goes okay. I don't know, but yeah, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. Otherwise, I think me and Lisa might just go for I was about to say Sunday roast then, but it's on a Saturday. Thanks everyone for the comments. Keep up to date with us, Garibaldi Red _ on Twitter. We will be back next Monday for our main episode. Me and Sarah Clapson will be back. But until then, keep up to date with us on Nottinghamshire Live and Nottingham Forest News. And we will see you very soon. Fingers crossed that Forest can turn this around. We'll see